got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a going home. I didn't notice what time it was. It's just a breaking home, but it's starting to.
Ever wondered what happened to the bands that ruled the 60s? Let's uncover the stories of 20 iconic groups that disappeared from the spotlight. Get ready for a nostalgic journey through the lost sounds of an unforgettable era. 20. The McCoys.
Sloopy lives in a very bad part of town.
Ever wondered what happened to the band behind the catchy hit, Hang On Sloopy? Let's dive into the story of the McCoys. Best known for their 1965 #1 hit, the McCoys were the quintessential model for garage band success. Young, fresh-faced, and sporting an audacious lead guitarist, their sound was a perfect blend of rock and bubblegum pop, making them teen favorites. But when their short string of hits ran out, something surprising happened. They set the stage for the emergence of one of the great guitar heroes of the 1970s, their very own Rick Derringer. Like many 1960s garage bands, the McCoys were formed by suburban high school students inspired by the second wave of great rock and roll to hit America. Initially, the band named itself after a Ventures record, but they eventually settled on Rick and the Raiders. Performing gigs throughout the Midwest, they cut a single for the small Sonic label titled You Know That I Love You, which benefited from some local airplay. The group's standout feature was the hot, scrambling guitar leads of Rick Zeringer, who later changed his last name to Derringer. Their professionalism allowed them to share the stage with bigger-name acts, who they sometimes upstaged. Despite their early success, the McCoys faded into obscurity, but their legacy lived on through Rick Derringer's solo career. 19. Spiral Staircase. Have you ever heard a song that stays with you but you can't remember who sang it? That's the story of Spiral Staircase. The quintessential one-hit wonder, this band created the timeless classic More Today Than Yesterday. This song, a moderate hit in 1969, remains a perennial presence on oldies-oriented radio stations. But what happened to the band afterward? In 1967, the Fidalians got a big break when influential A&R executive Gary Usher, who had helped mold the careers of the Beach Boys and the Byrds, happened to catch their set at a club in El Monte, California. Usher was impressed and signed them to the Columbia label, but there was a catch. They had to change their name. Inspired by the classic 1940s suspense film The Spiral Staircase, they rechristened themselves Spiral Staircase, altering the spelling to fit the 1960s rock vogue for unusual spellings. Columbia also pushed the band to grow their hair long and adopt the dominant hippie image of the day. Despite these changes, the band's success was fleeting. More Today Than Yesterday was their shining moment, and although it remains beloved, Spiral Staircase quickly disappeared from the music scene, leaving behind a legacy encapsulated in a single, unforgettable song. 18. The Box Tops.
When she wrote me a letter, said she couldn't live without me no more. Had time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a going home.
Curious about the band that gave us the iconic hit, The Letter? Let's delve into the story of the Box Tops. This groundbreaking group from Memphis, Tennessee first charted in 1967 with The Letter, recorded at Chips Moman's American recording studio and produced by Dan Penn. Remarkably, they were the first Memphis artists to record in Memphis and have a #1 record. From 1967 to 1969, the Box Tops released 4 albums, excluding their Super Hits album, and 10 singles. The Letter dominated the Billboard charts for 4 weeks in 1967, selling over 4 million copies and earning a gold record. Their third single, Cry Like a Baby, was also a massive hit, peaking at number 2 for 2 weeks in 1968 and selling over 2 million copies. The original members, Alex Chilton, Bill Cunningham, John Evans, Danny Smythe, and Gary Talley, were initially part of a local band called the DeVilles. They changed their name to the Box Tops upon the release of The Letter due to name conflicts with other groups and evolving musical directions. The Box Tops were distinctive for their soulful sound, with Alex Chilton's voice providing a gritty Memphis edge that stood out. They were described as having looked whiter and sung blacker than the Box Tops on that sensational first single in 1967, The Letter. This unique blend made them a standout act of their time, even though internal changes and evolving music trends eventually led to their decline. 17. Peppermint Rainbow. Ever heard of the sunshine pop group from Baltimore known for their feel-good hit, Will You Be Staying After Sunday? That's the Peppermint Rainbow for you. Originally formed in 1967 under the name New York Times, they played local gigs in the mid-Atlantic states before being signed to Decca Records in 1968. This opportunity came thanks to talent agent Alan White, who brought the group to New York to showcase for producer Paul Leka. Leka was impressed and signed them, prompting a name change to the Peppermint Rainbow. Their first single, Walking in Different Circles, with B-side Pink Lemonade, didn't chart, but their second single, Will You Be Staying After Sunday, reached number 4 on KHJ on April 2nd, 1969. Nationally, the song spent 14 weeks on the US Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 32 on May 3rd, 1969, and selling over 1 million copies, earning a gold disc. The song also reached number 21 on the Cashbox Top 100 and peaked at number 19 in Canada. Despite their promising start and the success of Will You Be Staying After Sunday, the Peppermint Rainbow struggled to replicate this achievement. Their brief moment in the spotlight was a perfect example of the fleeting nature of fame in the music industry, but their sunny pop sound remains a delightful reminder of the late 60s. 16. The Flying Machine.
You bad, I know, darling, don't be sad.
Ever wondered about the story behind the cheerful hit Smile a Little Smile for Me? Let's talk about the Flying Machine. This British bubblegum pop band is best known for their 1969 American number 5 hit, Smile a Little Smile for Me. The Flying Machine evolved from the British band Pinkerton's Assorted Colours, which had scored a major UK hit with Mirror Mirror in 1966. By 1969, singer-guitarist Tony Newman, singer, auto-harpist, original frontman Sam Kemp, and bassist Stuart Coleman from Pinkertons had teamed up with lead guitarist Steve Jones and drummer Paul Wilkinson to form a new iteration of the group. With Newman now assuming lead vocal frontman duties, they became the Flying Machine. Their single, Smile a Little Smile for Me, peaked at number 5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart and reached number 6 on the AC chart. The song's success was remarkable, with their first self-titled LP released by Janus Records in 1969. By December 12th of that year, the single had sold 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA. Despite this success, their follow-up single, a cover version of Baby Make It Soon, first recorded by Marmalade, managed to achieve the US Hot 100 the following year. However, their final single, The Devil Has Possession of Your Mind, did not chart, leading to the band's eventual split. The Flying Machine's brief moment in the spotlight was marked by their catchy bubblegum pop sound, but they couldn't sustain their initial success, leaving Smile a Little Smile for Me as their lasting legacy. 15. The Left Bank.
every day. Just walk away, Renee.
Ever heard of Baroque pop? If not, you're in for a treat with the Left Bank. Formed in New York City in 1965, this highly creative and distinctive pop rock group made waves with their unique sound. The original band members were Michael Brown, keyboards, George F. Cameron, drums, Tom Finn, bass, Jeff Winefield, guitar, and Steve Martin, vocals. Their music stood out thanks to Martin's expressive, soaring vocals and Brown's elegant and melodic orchestral arrangements, complete with lush strings. The Left Bank's music was dubbed Baroque pop by the press. Their big hit, the touching and beautiful ballad Walk Away Renee, reached number 5 on the Billboard pop charts in late 1966. The equally gorgeous follow-up song Pretty Ballerina also did well, reaching number 15 on the Billboard pop charts in 1967. However, their sumptuous tune Desiree barely cracked the Hot 100 in late 1967. The Left Bank eventually broke up in 1969 due to poor management, financial problems, and internal conflicts between the band members. Despite their initial success, these issues overshadowed their potential. However, the band briefly reunited in the early 70s to record 2 songs for the soundtrack of the movie Hot Pants Holiday, 1971. The single, Love Songs in the Night / 2x2, was released by Buddha Records, but unfortunately flopped, leading to another split. Martin, Cameron, and Finn got together one more time in the late 1970s to record the album Strangers on a Train. This album wound up being shelved for 8 years before finally being released in 1986. Despite their turbulent history, the Left Bank's legacy lives on through their beautiful Baroque pop tunes that continue to captivate listeners. Stay tuned as we uncover more stories of these fascinating yet forgotten groups. 14. The Fortunes.
You still love me, that I know. Hoping soon you're gonna find, girl, your way back to me. 'Cause if I can walk up fitted carpets, I can swim down at my...
Ever heard of the English harmony beat group that took the 60s by storm? Let's dive into the story of the Fortunes. Formed in Birmingham, the Fortunes first came to prominence and international acclaim in 1965 when You've Got Your Troubles broke into the US, Canadian, and UK top 10s. This song was just the beginning. They had a string of hits including Here It Comes Again and Here Comes That Rainy Day Feeling Again, continuing their success into the 1970s with globally successful releases such as Storm in a Teacup and Freedom Come, Freedom Go. Their journey began with their first single, Summertime, Summertime, credited to the Fortunes and the Cliftones. Although their follow-up disc Caroline didn't chart, it gained lasting fame as the signature tune for the pirate radio station Radio Caroline. The next 2 singles also failed to chart, but their 5th release, the Roger Greenway Roger Cook number You've Got Your Troubles, 1965, reached number 2 in the UK singles chart and became a worldwide hit, including reaching number 1 in Canada and the American top 10. Their next singles, Here It Comes Again and This Golden Ring, sold well, but each less than the previous release. When Glenn Dale left in the summer of 1966, he was replaced by Shel McRae. Unfortunately, 3 more singles, You Gave Me Somebody to Love, Is It Really Worth Your While, and Our Love Has Gone, all failed to chart. Despite their initial success, the Fortunes struggled to maintain their momentum, but their early hits left a lasting legacy in the world of pop music. 13. Rose Garden.
Would you introduce me to the gentleman around?
Certainly. This is Jim Groshon.
Hello, Jim. How are you? Very nice to see you. The man buried behind you?
What happened to the American folk rock band with the hit single Next Plane to London? Let's explore the brief yet impactful story of the Rose Garden. This Los Angeles-based band was active in 1967 and 1968, leaving a mark with their memorable folk rock sound. The band formed from an earlier group known as the Blokes, founded in 1964, which had covered much of the Byrds' work in its later years. By 1967, the group's full lineup was complete, and they became known as the Rose Garden. The members were Diana DeRose on lead vocals and acoustic guitar, John Noreen on 12-string guitar and backup vocal, James Groshong on lead vocal and guitar, William Fleming on bass, and Bruce Bowden on drums. They signed with Atco Records in 1967 and had a hit with Next Plane to London, which reached number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart at the end of that year. They released their eponymous album in January 1968, but subsequent releases were unsuccessful. Dissension within the group, along with the drafting of 2 members into the military, led to its breakup by the end of 1968. Despite their short-lived career, the Rose Garden's Next Plane to London remains a beloved classic, encapsulating the folk rock spirit of the late 60s. 12. The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Ever heard of the rock band with a burning helmet and extreme face paint? Let's dive into the story of the Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Formed by singer Arthur Brown in 1967, this English rock band included Vincent Crane on Hammond organ and piano, Draken Thieker on drums, and Nick Greenwood on bass. The band's early incarnation was noted for Crane's intricate organ and brass arrangements and Brown's powerful, wide-ranging operatic voice. But what truly set Brown apart was his unique stage persona, which included extreme face paint and a flaming helmet. Their breakthrough hit Fire, released in 1968, sold over 1 million copies and was awarded a gold disc. The song reached number 1 on the UK singles chart and in Canada, and number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Their parent album, The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, also saw significant success, reaching number 2 on the UK album charts, number 6 in Canada, and number 7 in the US. In the late 1960s, The Crazy World of Arthur Brown's popularity was such that they shared bills with legendary acts like The Who, Jimi Hendrix, the Mothers of Invention, The Doors, The Small Faces, and Joe Cocker. Following the success of Fire, the press often referred to Brown as the God of Hellfire, a moniker that stuck thanks to the song's opening shouted line. Despite their initial success, internal conflicts and the pressures of maintaining their theatrical performances led to the band's decline. However, Arthur Brown's influence on theatrical rock and his unforgettable hit Fire continue to leave a lasting legacy in the rock world. 11. The Beau Brummels.
It seems so funny to me. Today you thought you were too good, you had a lot of love. Won't say I'm sorry.
What if I told you the first American response to the British invasion came from a band often mistaken for being British? That's the Beau Brummels for you. Formed in 1964 in San Francisco, California, they are said by some to be the first folk rock band. Known mostly for their hits, Just a Little, Laugh Laugh, and You Tell Me Why, the Beau Brummels brought a unique sound that captured the spirit of the times. Their first singles were produced by San Francisco disc jockey Sylvester Stewart, who would later gain fame as Sly Stone and go on to lead the influential group Sly and the Family Stone. The band's distinctive sound and success with songs like Laugh Laugh and Just a Little positioned them as America's first significant response to the British invasion bands of the mid-60s. The Beau Brummels faced numerous career blunders, including poor management and promotion. They also suffered from the loss of guitarist and primary songwriter Ron Elliott, whose diabetes made it impossible for him to tour with the group. These challenges led to their disbandment in the late 60s. One fun fact: the The version of Laugh Laugh heard on the Shinrock A Go-Go episode of The Flintstones is the original recording, showcasing their reach into popular culture. 10. Classics 4.
I call you up and ask you if you'd like to go with me and see a movie.
Ever heard the haunting saxophone of Spooky and wondered about the band behind it? Let's dive into the story of Classics 4. Formed in Jacksonville, Florida in 1965, this American band was founded by Dennis Yost and is best known for their hits Spooky, Stormy, and Traces, which have become cover standards. The group originally began as the Classics, a Jacksonville cover band consisting of guitarist J.R. Cobb, bassist Walter Eaton, keyboardist Joe Wilson, sax player Greg Carroll, and drummer Dennis Yost, who had previously been a member of the Echoes. The name The Classics came from the classic drum set Yost owned. Known as the stand-up drummer because he played standing up, Yost's vocals added a new dimension to the band's performances. They initially played Ventures covers and instrumental versions of Misty and Summertime. When people started requesting vocals, Dennis stepped up, and that was the beginning of the group's new direction. Their debut single, Pollyanna, written by Joe South, was sung in a style resembling that of the Four Seasons. However, they were informed that another recording act called The Classics had already had a hit single in 1963 with Till Then, so the group added 4 to their name to represent their 4 members. Classics 4 hit their stride with a series of hits from 1967 to 1969. Spooky reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, Stormy peaked at number 5, and Traces climbed to number 2. Their smooth blend of pop and jazz elements, combined with Yost's distinctive voice, made them a favorite. However, as the music scene evolved, their popularity waned, and the band underwent several lineup changes before eventually fading from the spotlight. 9. The Buckinghams.
When your baby says goodbye, kind of a drag. Something much greater than gold. I'm crazy about that girl, 'cause she...
Ever wondered about the band that gave us the catchy tune Kind of a Drag? Let's talk about the Buckinghams. Formed in 1965 in the Chicago area, this band consisted of Carl Giammarisi, Nick Fortuna, John Poulos, Dennis Tufano, and Dennis Micholi. Their big break came when they won a Battle of the Bands contest sponsored by a Chicago TV show called All Time Hits, which awarded them a 14-week gig on the show. During the height of the British invasion, the show wanted the band to have a more British-sounding name, leading them to settle on the Buckinghams. In 1966, the group signed a contract with USA Records, a Chicago label. Their early records were covers of hit songs, including James Brown's I'll Go Crazy, the Beatles' I Call Your Name, and the Hollies' I've Been Wrong Before. While these sold fairly well in the Chicago area, the band needed a national hit to cement their reputation. They struck gold with Kind of a Drag, which sold more than 1 million copies and reached number 1 on the national pop charts. Following this success, the group moved to the larger Columbia Records and had another hit with Lawdy Miss Clawdy, previously a hit for Lloyd Price. Their next big hit, Don't You Care, reached number 6 on the national charts. The Buckinghams became hot properties on the TV teen and variety shows, appearing on programs such as The Ed Sullivan Show and American Bandstand. Their string of hits continued in 1967 with Susan and Hey Baby, They're Playing Our Song, reaching number 11 and number 12 respectively. However, things began to decline in 1968. Their album In One Ear and Gone Tomorrow didn't produce a hit single, and they went through a string of personnel changes. By 1969, the band decided to disband. In 1980, the band, minus John Poulos, who had died of a drug overdose earlier that year, reunited for a reunion show sponsored by Chicago radio station WLS. Despite their ups and downs, the Buckinghams left an indelible mark on the 60s music scene. 8. T-Bones. Ever wondered about the band behind the catchy tune, No Matter What Shape Your Stomach's In? Let's dive into the story of the T-Bones. This Liberty Records recording group, active from 1963 to 1966, is notable for a unique twist. Most of their studio recordings, except for their last album, were done by American session musicians known as the Wrecking Crew. It's important not to confuse them with the British mid-60s band of the same name. In Britain, the Liberty Records group was referred to as the US T-Bones to avoid confusion. The T-Bones hit it big in 1966 with the single No Matter What Shape Your Stomach's In, which was based on the melody from an Alka-Seltzer commercial. This tune reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. After this hit, Liberty Records quickly recorded an album of the same name using session musicians from the Wrecking Crew. However, these musicians weren't willing to go on tour to promote the album since they were making too much money doing sessions in Los Angeles. As a result, Liberty created a different public T-Bones group to appear on record covers, TV, and in concert. This public group consisted of Judd Hamilton, Dan Hamilton, Joe Frank Carollo, Tommy Reynolds, and Gene Pello. Interestingly, none of them played on the hit record, nor did they play on the next album, Sippin' and Chippin'. However, the public T-Bones did record the band's final album, Everyone's Gone to the Moon and Other Trips. Members Dan Hamilton, Joe Frank Carollo, and Tommy Reynolds later found greater success in the 1970s as the soft rock trio Hamilton, Joe Frank, and Reynolds. Although the T-Bones' time in the spotlight was brief, their catchy tunes left a lasting impression on the music scene. 7. The Circle.
Worst is over now, the morning sun is shining like a red rubber ball.
What if I told you John Lennon suggested the name for a groovy 60s band? That's The Circle for you. This engaging, folksy pop rock group from the East Coast was distinguished by their lovely vocal harmonies and pleasant melodies. The original lineup included Don Daneman, guitars, vocals, Tom Dawes, bass vocals, Marty Fried, drums, and Earl Pickens, keyboards. The group started out as a frat rock outfit called the Rondells before changing their name to The Circle, thanks to John Lennon's suggestion. In 1966, they scored a big smash hit with the infectiously bouncy and upbeat Red Rubber Ball, co-written by Paul Simon. The song peaked at number 2 on the Billboard pop charts, catapulting them to fame. Moreover, The Circle performed as the opening act for the Beatles during their 1966 summer tour of America, a testament to their popularity and talent. They even appeared as themselves and composed the score for the tawdry sexploitation picture The Minx in 1969. Unfortunately, despite the initial success of Red Rubber Ball, additional singles by the group were undeserved commercial flops. This led to their disbandment in 1968. The Circle's brief moment in the limelight showcased their talent and the potential for what could have been a longer-lasting career in the music industry. 6. 4 Jacks and a Jill.
It's a very strange world, and I thank you, Master Jack.
That sweet, sweet love that you're handing out. I'll give it just a bit of my sweet, sweet.
Ever heard of a South African band that made waves worldwide in the 60s? Meet 4 Jacks and a Jill. Originally formed in 1964 without a Jill under the name The Nevadas, they were the first group in South Africa to wear their hair long. They then changed their name to the Zombies, not to be confused with the well-known British group. Later, they added lead singer Glennis Lynn and became 4 Jacks and a Jill. The group included Clive Harding, bass guitar, Keith Andrews, rhythm guitar, and organ, later replaced by Mark Poulos and subsequently Till Hanneman, Bruce Bark, lead guitar, harmonica, and saxophone, Tony Hughes, drums, and Glynis Lynn, lead vocal and organ. In South Africa, they had a hit song, Timothy. In 1968, they cracked the American charts with Master Jack, hitting the Billboard Hot 100 at number 18 and reaching number 3 on the adult contemporary chart. The song also reached number 10 on Cashbox and went to number 1 in South Africa, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. Their follow-up single, Mr. Nico, peaked at number 98 in the United States. Although this was their last hit in the US, the group continued to score hits in their native country. Over the years, Ford Jackson and Jill have recorded and produced albums for a range of sing-along educational storybooks for various South African charities, showcasing their enduring legacy and commitment to their roots. 5. The Outsiders.
I look at life and I tell you what we're gonna do.
Curious about the band that gave us the unforgettable hit Time Won't Let Me? Let's explore the story of the Outsiders. This American rock and roll band from Cleveland, Ohio, was founded and led by guitarist Tom King. The band's breakthrough came with the release of Time Won't Let Me in early 1966, which peaked at number 5 on the US charts in April. They followed this success with 3 other Hot 100 Top 40 hit singles in 1966 and released a total of 4 albums in the mid-1960s. However, bad luck seemed to follow the group. They were offered and turned down a song called Bend Me, Shape Me, which later became a major hit for the American breed. Their next album, In, was released in 1967, but never made it to the charts. None of the band's subsequent singles made the top 100. The band went through numerous personnel and producer changes, but these didn't help their situation, leading to their dissolution in 1970. Despite the setbacks, the Outsiders have reformed several times over the years, with various original members participating. As recently as 2011, they were still performing concerts across the US, keeping the spirit of their music alive for dedicated fans. 4. The Seeds. Ever felt the raw, edgy vibe of garage rock? Then you've likely encountered the Seeds, best known for their rock and roll standard, Pushin' Too Hard. This band combined the raw, stonesy appeal of garage rock with a love for ragged, trashy psychedelia. Sky Saxon, born Richard Marsh, vocals, and guitarist Jan Savage formed the Seeds in Los Angeles in 1965, with keyboardist Daryl Hooper and drummer Rick Andridge completing the lineup. By the end of 1966, they secured a contract with GNP Crescendo and released Pushin' Too Hard as their first single. The song climbed into the top 40 in early 1967, and the band quickly followed up with 2 sound-alike singles, Mr. Farmer and Can't Seem to Make You Mine. Although neither matched the commercial peak of Pushin' Too Hard, Can't Seem to Make You Mine came close, just missing the top 40. The Seeds continued to record for the remainder of the 60s, delving deep into post-Sgt. Pepper's psychedelia and art rock. Despite their creativity and willingness to explore new musical directions, none of their subsequent releases became hits, and the group disbanded at the turn of the decade. Their legacy, however, endures as a quintessential example of 1960s garage rock and psychedelia. 3. Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs. Ever wondered about the band behind the catchy hit Sugar Shack? That's Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs. Originally formed as the Fireballs, this American rock and roll group gained popularity at the end of the 1950s and early 1960s. The original lineup consisted of George Tomsko, lead guitar, Chuck Tharp, vocals, Stan Lark, bass, Eric Budd, drums, and Dan Trammell, rhythm guitar. Later billed as Jimmy Gilmer in the Fireballs, the group reached number 1 on the Billboard chart with Sugar Shack, which remained at that position for 5 weeks in 1963. The single also reached number 1 on Billboard's R&B chart for 1 week in November of that year, though its run on that chart was cut short when Billboard ceased publishing an R&B chart from November 30, 1963 to January 23, 1965. Despite this, Sugar Shack earned the group a Gold Record Award for Top Song of 1963 based on record sales. In the UK, the song peaked at number 45. Following the success of Sugar Shack, Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs scored another pop hit in 1964 with the similarly catchy Daisy Pedal Pickin', which reached number 15 on the Hot 100. Although they didn't achieve the same level of success with subsequent releases, the band's early hits cemented their place in rock and roll history. 2. Mercy. Ever wondered about the band behind the timeless hit, Love Can Make You Happy? Let's talk about Mercy. This American pop group from Florida struck gold in 1969 with their single, Love Can Make You Happy, written by Jack Sigler Jr. The song soared to number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100 singles chart and also peaked at number 2 on the Adult Contemporary chart. Released in April, the single sold over 1 million copies by July 15th, earning a gold record from the RIAA, though the group didn't receive the award until October 2009. During the single's rapid rise, an album was released by a group calling themselves The Mercy, featuring a cover with 3 girls. This album included the Sundi recording and several other songs that were not recorded by any of the original Mercy members. The song was later re-recorded on the Warner Brothers label with the addition of new band members and included on the Warner Brothers album Love Can Make You Happy, which peaked at number 38 on the US Billboard 200 chart. Mercy had one other Billboard Hot 100 hit, Forever, which reached number 79 in June 1969. Despite their brief moment of major success, the band continues to tour with Sigler, the original lead vocalist and founder of the group. In 2009, Mercy released their latest EP on iTunes, proving that their music still resonates with fans. 1. Jay and the Americans. Ever heard the classic hit Come a Little Bit Closer and wondered about the band behind it? Meet Jay and the Americans. Formed in the late 1950s, the initial lineup included John J. Traynor, Howie Kane, born Howard Kirschenbaum, Kenny Vance, born Kenneth Rosenberg, and Sandy Deane, born Louis Sandy Yaguda. Their greatest chart success came after Traynor was replaced as lead singer by Jay Black, born David Blatt, and Marty Sanders, born Martin Joe Coopersmith, were added to the lineup. They were inducted into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2002. With Jay Traynor singing lead, they first hit the Billboard charts in 1962 with She Cried, which reached number 5 and was later covered by the Shangri-Las, Aerosmith, and others. After Traynor left the group, Marty Sanders brought in David Black, née Blatt, of the Empires to take Traynor's place, and Black sang lead for the rest of the group's major hits. Jay and the Americans recorded Only in America, a song originally meant for the Drifters. Other notable hits included Come a Little Bit Closer in 1964, which hit number 3, and Cara Mia in 1965, which hit number 4. Despite their success, the group split in 1973. While most members moved on to solo musical careers, Jay Black continued to perform under the name Jay and the Americans, using a variety of musicians. The original version of Cara Mia went to number 1 in the Netherlands when it was re-released in 1980. In 1991, EMI released their material on CD for the first time with the collection Come a Little Bit Closer. Which of these bands was your favorite? Did we miss any groups that you think deserve a spot on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into music history. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.